Welcome to the Sports Porch Philadelphia. Here we are. Thanks for watching around the world on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on YouTube, on X. We are live, and we do drop the podcast right after the show.
Yes, we do.
On the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, Spotify,
or anywhere you get your freaking podcast.
Very nice, Robert. Very nice. So thanks for being here, guys. Really excited to do the show tonight. I'm looking at myself right now. I haven't shaven and shave. Is that the way to say it?
Shaved. I haven't shaved.
Okay. Right. Thank you.
Yes.
In like a week, and this hat is bothering me.
Sure.
Yeah. I think it looks, I actually think it looks dumb, but you don't want me to turn it around for other reasons, right?
Yep.
I am the technical director, and that right there is the Grand Schwabini.
Yes, sir.
And we're going to talk Philly sports, which is what we always talk about.
That is what we always talk about.
We got three pages tonight. 3 pages. Page 1 is going to be the Sixers.
Mm-hmm.
Page 2 is going to be the Phillies. Page 3 is going to be the Eagles. And then we're going to talk a little bit about the cheesesteak challenge.
It's like reading a newspaper.
It is. Remember that, man?
Remember that.
Do you miss the newspaper?
I did like the newspaper back in the day.
I'm asking, do you miss it?
Do I miss it?
Yeah.
I can't say that I miss it, but I did, because there's different things to do instead now. So what I used to do back in the day when you had to get everything through the newspaper is I'd go out to a Starbucks and get some coffee.
Yeah.
And I'd sit there and I'd get a Philadelphia Daily News.
Yeah.
Turn it to the back and I'd go through all the pages and read it. Now I just don't need the newspaper. I just use my phone.
Yeah. I understand. But I miss it. I miss those days. What did they do last night? What did they do yesterday? And the anticipation and the smell of the paper.
And there was a little bit something different about the headline was more of a big deal.
It was a big deal.
It was a big deal.
Yeah. Now headlines
it's just
it's clickbait.
Yeah,
Headlines
everywhere there's a headline.
So back to my hat real quick. So you're going to bring me a hat, right? You're going to got a Phillies hat for me?
Get you a good Phillies hat.
The Phillies are hot right now.
They are.
All right. Well, hey, listen, one thing you can also do is you can subscribe to the Sports Porch Philadelphia on YouTube. We are live right there right now. And if you want to catch up on the show at any time on YouTube, it's youtube.com/@Philadelphia Sports Porch.
Mm-hmm.
And, let's just go right to page 1. What's next for the 76ers? The Grand Schwabini was doing the Sixers report, the 10-9-8-7 Sixers playoff report.
Yep.
On our YouTube channel. You were doing a fantastic job. And unfortunately,
they let me down.
You had to end it.
They let me down because they're out of the playoffs.
I know.
And, disappointing. But what's new with this Sixers team? That's what they give us, a lot of disappointment.
Yeah.
Today, Daryl Morey, the GM, talked about the future of the team.
Right.
To which he basically said, expect a lot of changes.
Yeah.
He said, he was asked the question, is it better to get a third star or chop that up, amongst 3 or 4 role players? And he basically said it's better to get a third star. So I assume that's what's going to happen.
Yes.
He kind of said look, it's our job to get the 3 stars and then to find the people that can play around them. He's like this year we found Kelly Oubre Jr.,
Right.
So that's what he's going to do. And what it comes down to is, there's a list that has evolved. Of course, this can all change over time.
Right.
But if you listen to Brian Windhorst and, all these guys who, claim to be insiders and have an idea of what's going on, the big names that we're talking about here, we're talking about Paul George. Now look, Paul George is a great player. But he's also he's another guy who's never won anything,
Right.
just like Harden, just like Embiid, never won anything. And he's also going to be old. I mean, he's going to be 34, I believe.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, yeah, would it be better if we had Paul George on this team this year? Yeah. But, it's not like that's going to make you the favorite for the championship.
Yeah, and you're looking at this like Kelly Oubre, Kyle Lowry, and Nick Batum. They're all, their contracts are expired.
Right.
Obviously, we think that Tobias Harris is not going to be around.
Right.
So, and they have like $60+ million in cap space.
Right.
And the 16th pick, right?
Yep.
I think it's the 16th pick.
Yep.
So, I mean, there's going to be I think the point is there's probably going to be a lot of new faces on this team.
Yeah.
Now, here's one they threw out when I was reading this on ESPN. You were talking about Paul George, and they call this a wild card. What about a play at LeBron James?
Right. Yeah.
I don't know. That I haven't heard anybody say that until now.
Well, yeah, but I mean, that's been said.
Yeah,
that's been said, because I think the idea is, look, he realizes that the Lakers aren't going anywhere anymore. They really have to gut it. And part of that was because when Tyrese Maxey was having these huge games, he was groveling over Maxey on on Twitter. So so that's a possibility. Now, the interesting thing with LeBron James is it's almost like he wants to go somewhere so he can play with his son, Bronny.
Yeah. Well, they've said that he's kind of backed off.
He's backed off on it. But let's be honest here. I mean, here's the bottom line. If let's say that LeBron is thinking about playing in certain places, right? If the Sixers are the only team that says to him, hey, we'll pick Bronny if he's there.
Yeah.
And he'll probably sign with them.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
That's probably what he'll do. And, look, here's the thing. I mean, I do understand in some ways that pick wouldn't make any sense.
Right.
But also, it's really like you're trading a first-round pick for LeBron.
Yeah, and
right.
And it's not like he had a bad year.
Right.
I mean, he's.
I mean, and the fit would be interesting because if you really think about it, for LeBron James to kind of come in and sort of teach Embiid and Maxey how to, prepare at a championship level, let's say.
Yes.
That would be good. Now, there is also another big name that's out there.
Okay.
There's a lot of talk about, could they bring back Jimmy Butler?
Yeah.
And I think that would be an interesting, good move as well.
Yeah.
Apparently, Jimmy Butler has 1 year left on his deal.
Right.
And, I guess at this point, when you have 1 year left on your deal and you're really good, this is when you either get extended or you leave. Right. And so apparently, Butler wants a 2-year extension, so he wants his deal to be 3 years. And Pat Riley spoke to the Heat media today, and he seemed very non-committal. He was just like, well, he's like, we haven't made a decision on that yet, and what I need to see more games played. Basically kind of jabbing a little bit at Butler, he's always injured.
Yeah, we're not going to give you. Right,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, it doesn't make sense for them. This guy's always injured. He always lets us down. Now, he's also going to be 34. So, is that the direction we want to go? So, they may decide to let him go. So, look, you got Paul George, you got LeBron, you've got, Jimmy Butler. I mean, I'll take any of the three.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? I'll take any of the three. I mean, I would probably say, if I had a choice between the three, I would probably go Jimmy Butler first.
Right.
But, who knows what's going to happen? I mean, you don't know who's going to become available. But it's an interesting list.
Where is Bronny now that he's declared for the draft?
Yeah.
I mean, what are the scouting reports on him? Because admittedly, I don't really I don't follow that at all because he's not in the NBA, and it's a story.
He's projected to be a second round pick.
Right. Okay.
You know, and you know, all I can really say is that you know, he plays for USC.
Right.
And there was some actual talk about him potentially even transferring to Villanova.
Right.
So we don't really even know. There's still a chance that Bronny might not even go to the NBA this year. He can always back out as long as he doesn't have an agent and go back to the NBA.
Yeah, I wouldn't be able to tell you
college
whether he does or not.
How's things looking on YouTube there?
I'm checking that out right now. It actually looks pretty good.
Looks
I think
fine.
It's fine. Yeah. So, well, I think it's going to be an interesting offseason, obviously, for the Sixers because this was just a disappointing end to what in the beginning we thought would be a very promising season.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that stuck out to me is, with Embiid, I guess he only plays an average of about 68 games a year, or he's never played more than 68 games in a year. And this past year, he only played 39 games. And this is his ninth year in the league.
Mm-hmm.
So this is kind of a win now mentality. I mean, if you have a shot at LeBron,
mm-hmm.
I mean, LeBron wants more than anything to, maybe play with Bronny. But I think the top of his list is to win another championship.
Probably.
Because he wants to be looked at as hands down the greatest player of all time. And to me right now, the argument is still, it's a moot point. Michael Jordan is the greatest player of all time.
Right, sure.
And so in order for him to even be in that, well, he's always going to be in that conversation. But in order for him to really step up and say,
he needs more.
He needs 6 championships.
Right, he needs more. But, also realize this too. I believe he's like 38 or 39.
Yeah.
So that's getting up there.
Yeah.
He's also now like gets injured every year.
Yeah.
Yeah. And to be completely frank about it, I mean, I would think too, though, there's probably better options than the Sixers if you really want to pour on some championships, right?
Yeah.
I mean, why not go to the Celtics, or why not go to the Denver Nuggets, or you know what I mean?
Right, of course.
Or why not even maybe go to, if he wants to stay in California, go to Golden State and run with Seth Curry.
Well, they've talked about that, but he's got, he still has a home in Akron, Ohio, where he's from.
Mm-hmm.
He could end up back at Cleveland.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I guess the main point with LeBron is going to be his next stop is most likely going to be his last.
Right.
So where does he feel he could potentially, rattle off 2 championships and get into that conversation?
Right.
You know?
Yeah. So, we'll see. I mean, we got a little ways to go before that happens, but we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll keep our eyes peeled.
The playoffs are obviously still going on. So what is the Grand Schwabini predicting for the NBA playoffs now? Who do you see winning the championship? Do you think the Celtics can,
I think, to be honest,
over the hump and make the finals?
I don't know. I don't. Well, they've made the finals. They've lost in the finals.
Yeah.
I don't know. Something about the Celtics. I just don't. For some reason, I just don't think they're going to win it. I think they're going to be that team that gets there quite a bit and just doesn't win it.
Right.
Because the reality is that their best player is Jason Tatum.
Yeah.
And he's a really good player, but he also has these horrible games at times.
Yeah, I know.
Where he's just really bad. I also don't think they've got much of a coach either.
Yeah.
In terms of making the right decisions to put players in position and make the plays to win the game.
Right.
In crunch time.
Right.
It's interesting. My first guess. Here's what I'm going to say. Believe it or not. I think the winner of the NBA Finals is going to be the winner of this current series, which is the Denver Nuggets versus, I know you're going to laugh, the Minnesota Timberwolves.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to laugh.
But here's the thing. So Anthony Edwards, of the Minnesota Timberwolves, number one pick a couple years ago.
Yeah.
He's only 22 years old.
Yeah.
I mean, geez, he has blossomed this year.
Yeah.
And, if you put on the TV and you're just listening to like the most respected, guys that are NBA analysts, I mean, they're all saying the same thing. And they're like, this is honestly the best chance for a Michael Jordan-like career since Kobe Bryant.
Right.
I've heard like that. He's that good.
Yeah.
And so they came out in game one and they beat the Nuggets and pretty much
he scored 39, I think.
Yeah, and they in the 40s and they they held Jokic in check, which is not easy to do. 2-time MVP. So it wouldn't shock me. I mean, I believe they've had the number one record like throughout most of the year. We're all just kind of wondering like, how long is that going to hold up?
Yeah.
Maybe it's going to hold up. But you know what? I'm going to and the other part of it is, Denver's second best player is Jamal Murray, and he's playing banged up.
Yeah.
So I guess his health is probably a part of it too. If I got to make a guess here, I'm going to say the Denver Nuggets are going to win the championship back-to-back years.
That would be interesting.
And I think that they will end up beating the Celtics.
All right. There's the Grant Schwabini's NBA prediction.
Yep.
Well, we'll keep you updated on anything that happens with the 76ers, but really it's going to be fairly quiet other than little news clips and hot takes.
Yes.
Until the NBA season wraps up. Thanks for watching, guys. I want to remind you can follow the Sports Porch Philadelphia on YouTube, and the new Jordan, at Philadelphia Sports Porch. And you can also follow the Sports Porch podcast. We drop the Philadelphia Sports Porch podcast right after the show on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere you get your friggin' podcast. Now let's flip over to something that is currently good.
Yes.
Page 2 tonight. The Phillies, the best team in Major League Baseball.
That is correct.
Without Trea Turner.
That is correct. So, so it's interesting because, we spent the last couple shows talking about, well, not the last couple, but maybe like, during the first 2 weeks of the season.
Longer than that.
We're
right.
like, why can't they get off to a hot start?
Yeah, for once.
Well, now it's the beginning of May and they are off to a hot start.
They really are. Yeah. currently 24-11. They've won 5 in a row. They're playing the Giants again tonight. They're going for the sweep. I mean, they put up 14 on the Giants, 2 nights ago.
And they're winning 5-1 tonight.
And they're winning 5-1
already.
Currently. Okay.
In the 8th.
Yeah. I mean.
So, yeah. I mean, look, the team's just really, really good. And this is their best start since 2011.
Right.
Which now they didn't win the championship in 2011. They won in 2008. But the reality is the 2011 team was the better team.
Right.
They won more games. They won 102 games. And that was the year of the 4 aces. Right. Remember when they had Halliday,
yep.
Lee, Hamels, and Oswalt.
Yeah, that's amazing.
But I'll tell you what, the pitching this year has been really, really good. I mean, you've got Wheeler has got an ERA like in the 1.6 something at this point now, pitching in this game today with another Wheeler, 10 strikeouts.
Yeah, it's before the game started, 191. Ranger Suarez has really, really turned it on this year. He's at a 172 ERA. Even Aaron Nola 332. I mean,
that's good for him.
That's good. Yeah.
And I think he's is he 6-1?
Aaron Nola is 4-1. Ranger Suarez has yet to lose a game.
6-0.
And Zach Wheeler is 3-3.
Right.
Because it's a run support issue.
It's a run support issue, but it seems to be going away. I think when he wins this game, it'll be his last 3.
Yeah.
And then you've got Christopher Sanchez has done like an adequate job.
Yep.
And then you have 2 guys that, Spencer Turnbull had been pitching beautifully in the 5th spot, but now Taijuan Walker is ready to be back. So they're pitching him. So they're kind of going with a 6-man rotation at times. But ultimately I think they're going to turn Turnbull into a bullpen arm.
Yeah.
Really, just to be honest, I think that Turnbull would be better as the fifth starter, but Walker really can only start. He's not a bullpen type guy.
Gotcha.
So the pitching's been really, really good. And that's really the key to it. And then, the bats, let's first of all talk about Alec Boehm. What's he hitting? 360?
360. Yeah. Only 22 strikeouts. He's got 32 RBIs. His on base percentage is 430. I mean,
yep.
He's having a pretty good year.
Yeah. So this is we're looking at the final breakout year for Alec Boehm.
Yeah.
Alec Boehm was the third overall pick in the first round by the Phillies several years ago. And he's kind of like inched his way into being a good ball player. Like, last year, had finally hit 20 home runs for the first time, had close to 100 RBIs, and looks like this year he's really kind of taken it to the next level.
Yeah. I bring this up every week when we talk about the Phillies. Kyle Schwarber batting 206, leading the league in strikeouts with 52.
Yeah.
But he does have 8 home runs.
Yeah, he has 8 home runs.
I love that.
And actually,
I love that guy.
And actually, what's interesting? Obviously, of course, in large part because of Kyle Schwarber, the Phillies lead the majors in first inning runs scored.
Yeah, because he just blasts one over the wall.
And I think we all know that it's easier to play from ahead.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, it is. It is. It's one of the most lopsided ideas when it comes to baseball purism.
Yep.
To put a guy like Kyle Schwarber in the leadoff spot. Right. But you want to know what I love about it, and on our other shows I talk about this. It works.
Mm-hmm.
And if you find something that works,
right,
you stick with it.
So now look, I do bash the Phillies quite a bit for, and being analytics driven.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
But in some ways, you can almost say that the Schwarber thing isn't so much analytics driven.
I don't think it is.
I mean, you could say it is if you wanted to go off of, hey, if we score first, we win.
Right.
Because last year, I think they were like 9-1 when he hit a home run to lead off the game or something like that.
Yeah.
But honestly, I think it's more of a gut feel. I agree. That's where he hits best. The team responds to it.
Yeah.
Let's do it anyway.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I think that the analytics question would lead you to say, okay, so they're 9-1 when he hits a home run in the first inning. So what is their record when they just score first?
Right.
Is it similar? And my guess is that it's probably not as stellar. It's a smaller sample size, but it's probably just as big. But there's no question in my mind that the Kyle Schwarber thing, that's a gut feel.
Right.
That's where he's comfortable, and he's going to. The other thing about it is he's going to get more strikes batting in the first. He's going to get more pitches to hit.
Right.
Batting leadoff in the first hit of the game.
Yeah.
So
and I think and Trea Turner kind of came back this year. He had a really slow start last year.
Yep.
Until the standing ovation, and then the fans, rallied him, and he came back, with a vengeance. I believe, he's hurt now, but what is he, 330 something?
343. And leading the team in stolen bases with 10.
Right.
As far as home runs go, he only had 2 and 9 RBIs,
right.
But still.
And here's the thing, though, like what's kind of interesting is the way in which Trea Turner got hurt. That also defines for you how special of a player he is.
Mm-hmm.
So basically how he got hurt was he scored from second on a pass ball.
There you go. Yeah.
So he just came up with a hammy as he slid into home.
That sucks. It sucks.
But think about it in your lifetime. How many times has that happened? I can remember one other time. Chase Utley did that once.
Yeah.
But it almost never happened.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. He was playing the game.
Right.
He was playing the game. So, yeah, I mean, at this point right now, let's go back to the record. I mean, I would say that, it's still early, but we've got a healthy enough sample size of the season now. What's their record? 24-11.
Mm-hmm.
So you're 35 games into the season. So you're basically 20% of the season is gone.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's a little early to call things.
Sure.
but you've given yourself a really nice head start heading into the All-Star break.
Well, yeah, and if you think about it, like last year at this time, they might have been 10 games behind the Braves.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, the Braves were running away with it. Yeah.
Right, and so maybe what we're seeing here is Braves are still going to be good. Braves are still going to be a playoff team. They might even win the division.
Yeah, they're 20-12.
Yeah,
I mean,
but
less games played.
Right, so they're darn good too. But at the same time, I think the Phillies this year are making a real go of the division. And with Spencer Strider out of their lineup, I think that makes it harder for them.
Oh, definitely. And we talked about this a couple weeks ago when it was announced that Strider would be out for the year.
Right.
It was kind of like, this could be their chance. Now, first of all, you just want to make the playoffs. That's what you want to do. And right now, it seems like everything is starting to work for the Phillies as far as their starting pitching, their bullpen, their hitting, their fielding. Baseball is a game of streaks.
Right.
So, can they build enough of a lead that when they inevitably hit a 3-game losing streak, or when Nola regresses back to the Nola we know and hate, that they can withstand that. This is not the nice thing is this is not like the Sixers where when Embiid goes down, you're just praying they're at 500.
Right.
They've got a complete team.
Right.
And things are looking good. I mean, I other than the Dodgers and maybe the Braves.
Right. I mean, here's the thing. I mean, what I'm hoping for is, look, obviously the Phillies have been a really good team the last 2 years. I mean, the playoffs both years, World Series 1 year, NLCS the other. But it's still really hard to win the whole thing when you have to be on fire the whole second half of the season and win a wild card playoff round.
Right.
The reality is that usually the team that wins was, one of the 2 or 3 best teams in baseball the whole year.
Right.
When the Phillies lost to the Astros were the best team the whole year.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who actually beat the Diamondbacks last year? I can't remember. Oh, Texas Rangers.
Yeah, the Rangers.
Texas Rangers. They were right up there pretty much the whole year.
Yeah, I hate the Texas Rangers.
Yeah. So, I'm looking for more of that feeling of like, hey, let's win the division. Let's not have to play an extra round.
Yeah.
And let's see if we can win it that way.
So you think if they win the division and they get a break, you think that's better for the Phillies?
I do. Because I just think how many years can you continue to win that wild card
all
game?
The way through.
Yeah, exactly.
All the way through.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's little things too, like so for example, when you play that wild card round, right? That means you don't have Wheeler starting game 1 of the next round.
Right.
So there's a lot that goes into it.
Yeah. So we've got, as far as the schedule coming up, again, they're leading San Francisco tonight. Wheeler's on the mound. So 2 versus a short series in Philly against Toronto. Then they go on the road for what looks like 5. This is strange.
Looks like there was a Schwarber bomb that just occurred.
Oh, there it is.
Yep.
Number 9. Yep. Number 9. So then they're on the road for 3 at Miami, 2 at New York. Then New York comes into Philly for 2. Those are some fun games to be at, I'm sure. Then they hit Washington at home, and then they go up against Texas. So
Schwarber's average up to 214.
Wow,
he's scorching. He's scorching right now.
He is scorching. Yeah, but that's what you get. So I mean, so far looks like they're cruising to a 6th straight win here. That's great stuff. They got 2 versus Toronto at home on Tuesday and Wednesday. Toronto's not having a terrible year, but look, it'd be lovely for them to string together, 7 or 8 straight wins or 9 straight wins.
Would it be lovely?
It would be lovely. No, yeah. I don't know where I got that word.
That would be delightful.
It would be delightful. It would be heartwarming. Yeah. But as we always say, it is a long season, but this is what we wanted to see.
Yes, this is exactly what we wanted to see, and we're seeing it. Yeah. And the best part is with the lineup being so deep, you never really, you're never in a spot where if your best 1 or 2 players aren't hitting, you're screwed.
Yeah.
Because what, for a while in the beginning, You had Harper wasn't hitting,
right?
But like Marsh was on fire,
right?
Now Bohm's on fire all the time,
right?
And for a while Castellanos wasn't hitting, but now, he's starting to get some hits. He's he's only up to about 200 now, but he's gone up from like 170 to 200 in like 3 or 4 days.
Yeah, which means he's batting over 500 during that span.
Looks, we have a comment from the Rube. Do we need to go get a lockdown closer?
Very interesting.
Yeah, that's a good question.
No, I think your nickname for Rob, the Rube.
Well, he is the Rube.
That's even more.
He is the Rube.
I never, in all the years that I've known you, and I haven't seen Rob in a long time, I don't remember you calling him the Rube.
Well, I mean, I don't really call him the Rube.
I'm not really sure that
it's just what it's just what came out. Just what came out.
All right. Do we need to get a lockdown closer?
Well, here's what I'll say.
And the bigger question is, who would we get?
Yeah, I don't. I mean, I don't think they need to, but if they do, it wouldn't hurt.
Yeah. What about like a guy like Aroldis Chapman or David Bednar, who I'm pretty sure are both going to be on the block, not too far, not too distant.
I don't know.
Future.
I mean, see, it's hard to say. Like, well, first of all, like Aroldis Chapman is old.
Yeah, but he still throws over 100.
I know he still throws well,
yeah.
but he's old. So can he handle a high workload?
I think. Well,
last year you found out Craig Kimbrell couldn't.
Yeah.
Then you've got like David Bednar, good pitcher, but you know what? Like, is he a good closer on a bad team, or is he actually a really good closer?
I think I happen to think he's a pretty good closer.
Well, like how many saves did he have last year?
Like 40 some.
Did he?
He had a lot. Yeah, you keep talking about that, and I'll find it right here. David Bednar. Yeah, because I have a feeling that we're going to see certain teams, dismantling themselves later in the year. And these are two guys that, I mean, Chapman, I think he won a World Series last year with the Rangers.
The Flitch says we'll throw in Jared Jones.
Yeah. I would take him. I would take him.
I have to tell you, I was a push the brakes on Jared Jones guy.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what, like the other day I was watching, it was like the 6th inning and he had like given up 1 hit and he had no walks and 10 strikeouts. He might be all right.
He's got some good stuff.
He might be all right.
But you always have to temper that because he is a rookie.
Right.
And what you got to see is what the back half of the year looks like.
Right.
And the next year. So I'm going to look up. Oh, well, it just so happens, thankfully, he is.
How many did he have last year?
Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. It's stats. Let's see. David Bednar started his career in 2019 with San Diego. Last year, he had 39 saves.
It's actually pretty good.
Yeah. And his ERA was an even 2. He pitched 60. He was in 66 games. He pitched 67 innings. 80 strikeouts. Now, look, is he a good closer on a bad team or just, an average guy? He wasn't pitching against his own team. Well, yes, he's on a bad team.
Well, 39 is a lot.
Yes.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
So,
year previous to that, he only had 19 saves in 45 games.
I mean, here's the thing. The reason why I think they don't need it, but I'll kind of go about this in 2 ways.
Okay.
I don't actually think they need a closer, but that is with my opinion that Jose Alvarado should be the closer.
Understood.
Now, the problem is if Topper and Dombrowski want to play it like we've been playing it the last, 2 years, where hey, if there's a big spot in the game and the other team's got the bases loaded and there's a lefty up, we're going to bring in Alvarado now to face one batter and strike him out. Well, that's a problem for the end of the game.
Yeah.
So, if you want to do that, I get that. But if you want to do that, you should have a closer.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that's kind of the way I look at it. So we'll just see how it turns out.
Yeah. And I'm throwing that name Bednar out there just because I where the Pirates are heading right now, it definitely looks like by the end of this year, they're going to have to make some moves, and they always do. And
Right.
the only chips they have are guys like that.
Right.
That's all they got. So, okay, well, the Phillies are off to a hot start finally, and let's hope they continue that. And you need Mason Miller from the A's. Yeah, right. He also a Pittsburgh guy, Mason Miller, by the way.
I don't really know Mason Miller that well.
Yeah.
Is he good?
Yeah, he's pretty good.
I don't really follow the A's.
Yeah, I don't know anybody that follols the A's, to be honest.
Right. I don't think A's fans follow the A's.
All right,
aren't they moving? Aren't they going to like Las Vegas or something?
I think
Okay.
so. Yeah. And they're gonna make a pit stop somewhere else.
Oh, right.
The Coliseum is falling down.
Right.
And poor Oakland. Okay, so
talk a little Eagles.
Yeah, we're gonna do that. We're gonna move to page 3 here. Before we do that, I do want to remind you can catch the Sports Porch Philadelphia podcast right after the show, so you can listen to it in your car. You can listen to it with your earbuds on while you're sitting out on the porch having a smoke, or anything you want to do on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere you get your friggin' podcasts. And you can also find us on our YouTube channel at any time and catch up. It's at Philadelphia Sports Porch.
Real live update here. Phillies win 6-1.
All right, 25-11.
Sweep the Giants, move to 25-11.
All right.
And Wheeler with the win, 7 innings pitched, 4 hits, 1 run, no earned runs, 1 walk, 11 Ks, ERA at 1.64.
Not a bad outing.
Bullpen, Mr. Strom, 2 strikeouts, 1 inning, 1.29. Oren Kirkering, 1.04, 1 inning.
There you go.
So looking good. Let's actually see if that will give us let's see if we're updated yet in the standings. We are, so we're full 3 games ahead of Atlanta.
Yeah, 3 games up.
All right.
Okay, page 3, the Eagles rookie camp was this week. We're kind of in the dead zone for football right now.
We are, but there's some things going on.
Well, the big thing right now is what's the schedule going to be?
Right.
And they play that game.
Yeah.
Did you know, this is something I heard today, and you might already know this, but it was news to me.
Okay.
The NFL schedule now is done by Amazon Web Services and their AI intelligence thing.
Okay.
And then I guess what happens is the powers that be at the NFL, all the guys that are responsible for doing that, they generate out all these schedules. And then about 72 hours before they release the schedule, they go to Roger Goodell and he kind of gives it his okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Okay.
Major League Baseball schedule. Now you're talking about 32 teams, 17 games,
right,
and 4 or 3, preseason games. Major League Baseball, 162 games over 32 teams or something like that, is still done by a husband and wife.
Really?
Family.
Seriously.
Basically, now I'm sure they have to use a computer for this.
I did not.
But by hand.
I did not know this.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
You talk about freaking nuts.
Well, actually, too, and you want to, that actually ties in really well with why Major League Baseball does some of the stupidest things. Like, so for example, I remember we were talking last year about how can you have teams not playing on July 4th? You're the only sport in action. It's your big day.
Yeah, right.
And you don't have teams playing.
I don't know.
It's ridiculous, right?
Well, the other thing, I was listening to a sports show out here in our part of the state, and they were talking about how the football team here went almost 10 years without a home opener, and it's basically because of the schedule. And this year, the Pirates' schedule, their longest home stint happens to be during the first week of football, and because of that, the stadiums and all that, it's a nightmare to do that.
Right.
So it's it's done by hand.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Yeah, it's like tradition. It's a tradition, but you want to automate the strike zone. I mean, could we do something to change the schedule thing? I mean, I don't know.
That would be more important.
Yeah, I think it would be more.
But anyway,
so the Eagles.
But anyway, talking Eagles, the only things that I would say were kind of interesting from this week is this week was rookie minicamp. Yep. this week was rookie minicamp. And I'm always intrigued. I'm always intrigued just by things like leadership and like, how things happen kind of behind the scenes. I thought it was pretty cool that AJ Brown and Jordan Mailata attended, Eagles rookie mini camp,
right?
Just to coach players up.
Yeah.
I think that's great. That impresses me when guys do that, right? They don't have to do that. They're multimillionaires. They could be doing whatever the heck they want right now.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But AJ Brown wants to win a Super Bowl.
Yeah. And I will tell you, I did, I watched, obviously they re-signed AJ Brown. So for the moment, he's the highest paid receiver in the league. I actually didn't realize just how hard a worker he was. Because here's the thing. I mean, look, we know that most of these guys, we think anyway, work out because they're so sculpted.
Yeah.
How could they not?
Of course they do. They have trainers. They have a program.
Right.
Yes.
But AJ Brown, I didn't know he took it to this extent. Like what he said when they were asking him, like they were kind of like, what was the question? It was something about, do you, now that you have this money, like, do you feel like you have to prove it on the field, right? And his response to that was, you have to prove it on the field every week. He's like, nobody on the other side of the ball cares how much money you make.
Right. And
then he kind of went on to say, he's like, so what I have to do is I have to work harder than everybody else. And he's like, I have to have, a workout schedule that is better than everybody else because that's going to give me that little bit of edge. He's like, so when people say that, they're going out to the club, on Friday night or Saturday night, I'm going to the gym because I'm going to have that edge over them.
Yeah.
He's like, look, and if you don't believe that people aren't, hungover on a Sunday morning football game, he's like, you're kidding yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he's like, and I will not be.
Yeah.
I will be ready to go.
Yeah.
So, I was impressed just to hear that, just to know that that's the kind of guy he is.
Well, and you think about it, I mean, he's a veteran football player, but he's still a very young man.
Right.
And so he's got his priorities straight because he realizes that he's been given generational wealth. But at the end of the day, all the money he makes, nobody's ever going to remember that. They're going to remember if he wins a Super Bowl and he plays a starring role in winning that Super Bowl. That's how he solidifies his legend. And I don't know, he might retire at like 36, and have millions and millions of dollars.
Right.
Plenty of time for clubbing after that.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that's a good thing. And it's good when he shows up and helps the rookies to see that. Like, a lot of those guys, they look up to him. So how do you do it, AJ? This is how you do it.
Right.
It's called delayed gratification.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
So, psychology term.
For all you kids out there.
And, the one other thing that I thought was kind of cool was, obviously like the NFL does stuff like with mic'd up and stuff, right?
Yeah.
So you get to see a lot of things that maybe you didn't used to get to see. And what was kind of interesting was they had Howie Roseman, and basically like the Eagles draft room mic'd up for the draft.
Nice.
And it was really cool. They showed something that like, I had never, I mean, look, I knew it happened, but I never really saw it in like live action. They basically kind of cataloged how the Eagles went up and traded up for Cooper DeJean, and it was wild. It was just like Howie's in the room and he's like on the phone with somebody and he's just like, okay, so, we give you 50, 53, 117, and you give us, 27 and 50 and 59 and 73 and all this kind of stuff. And he's just like, all right, so if our guy's there, we got a deal, right? And they're like, right. And then he like all of a sudden somebody's like, Howie runs out of the room, he runs back in the room, and then the guy comes in, he's like, oh, look, somebody's on the clock now. They're like, all right, please don't take him. They don't take him. They're like, yeah, I didn't take him. They're one pick away and they're like, oh no, the Rams traded up. They're going to take him.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the Rams announce their pick and it's not him. And Howie just goes, yes.
You know what? You know what's great about that?
Cool.
What's great about that is we always have this idea in our heads that there's some sort of backroom dealing, and a lot of things are already set.
Right.
What's great about that is that it's kind of like, not really. Right. It really is that fun.
Right.
You know, it makes you want to be in that room.
It was fun. And you know what was pretty cool too? I heard, Hugh Douglas was kind of talking about it. He's on WFP Sports Radio. And he was like, he's like, you realize, like, when you see that, like, he's like, imagine that you're Cooper DeJean, right? And you're bummed out that you weren't taken in the first round. And you see how excited Howie Roseman and the Eagles are about trading up to get you. He's like, that's something that he will never forget.
Yeah, of course not.
You know what I mean? He will never forget that. But more so watching what happened than just, hey, we traded up for you, we got you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, he gets a chance to see it.
Yeah, so it was pretty cool.
Yeah.
I wonder, too, if there's stuff like that for all the teams. There is.
Oh, no doubt. The NFL catalogs everything on video.
Yeah.
Everything on video. So that's great to hear. And as camp starts, and first we got to get the schedule out. That'll be fun.
Right.
We'll talk about that.
Right.
Maybe we'll get lucky enough to talk about it next week.
Yep.
When that comes out, we'll probably we'll have some fun with it. And listen,
that's about it.
That's about it. But we do have one thing.
Oh wait, there's one thing on the Flyers.
Oh, okay.
Tomorrow night is the draft lottery.
Ooh, yeah.
So, and by the way, it doesn't mean much, because what they do is, like with the ping pong balls.
Yes. Yeah.
They give more weight to the teams that were the worst.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's something like, well, first of all, I believe, I might not be 100% correct on this, but I believe where the Flyers are, since they just missed the playoffs, I think they're not even allowed to get the first pick. I think the highest pick they could get is the second pick.
Right.
And there's like a 3% chance that they get the second pick.
Oh, well.
So they're probably going to pick like 13th or something like that. But it's still fun. You still have a shot.
Yeah, you got a shot.
You still have a shot.
You got a shot. Okay, so we do want to remind you, of course, that we're going to drop this podcast right after the live show, so you can catch the podcast anywhere you listen to podcasts, iHeartRadio app, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere you get your friggin' podcast. And please follow the Sports Porch on YouTube. It's youtube.com at the Philadelphia Sports Porch, or at Philadelphia Sports Porch. Something near and dear to your heart on Philadelphia Beautiful Schwaber, the 2024 Philadelphia Cheesesteak Challenge. Man, I mean, we're only in May. The actual voting begins in July.
Yep. It's
but
coming. It'll
8
be here
weeks
fast.
away, dude.
It'll be
8 weeks
fast.
away. Yeah. And we are going to be working on the Great Cheesesteak Debate.
I'm working on it. I have some feelers. I got some calls out right now. I'm waiting to hear back from some folks.
Yes.
So I am hoping that we have a nice little lineup for you.
So every year, Philadelphia Beautiful, in conjunction with the Philadelphia Sports Porch, does the cheesesteak challenge, where we have you vote for who you think has the best cheesesteak in all of Philadelphia. And by all of Philadelphia, we mean Greater Philadelphia.
Area.
Yes. So there are some fan favorites they pick. There's a play-in round. Then the voting begins. But this year we're going to do something special. We're going to try to get a couple of the winners from the previous 5. This is the 6th year, right? I say that every week. Yeah.
6th year.
From the previous 5 years, the winners, we're going to try to have a few of them on. We're going to have a little cheesesteak debate on how you make the best cheesesteak. And it's not a competition there. It's not a debate as to who's better or who's not. It's to try to get an idea as to why they make their cheesesteaks the way they do it, where it came from. We think you'll really enjoy that. Yeah. So with that, I think we have had one hell of a show. And I think it's probably time for the technical director to use his skills and do that.
There it is.
There it is.
There it is. There it is.
Okay, everybody. Thanks for watching the Sports Porch Philadelphia. And, of course, thanks for listening. If you're listening on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcast, Spotify, or anywhere you get your friggin' podcast, please subscribe. Leave us a review. We would really love to hear a review.
A good one.
Subscribe to the Sports Porch Philadelphia, or what is it? At the Philadelphia Sports Porch, at Philadelphia Sports Porch on YouTube. Hit the subscribe button and the notification button right down there.
Smash it.
Smash it down. I am your technical director. That is the Grand Schwabini. And I am out.
Jabroms.